Y'all know what it is.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Eggs. Today's special guest is co-founder and CEO at Leadferno, Aaron Weiche. Aaron has been instrumental in building Leadferno into a world-class web-to-text messaging platform that enables businesses to close more leads more quickly. But this isn't all he's done. He's an established entrepreneur and multiple-time founder, running several companies and digital marketing agencies over the past 20 years. Prior to Leadferno, he was CEO of GatherUp, scaling it to serve over 25,000 businesses and appearing in the Inc. 5000, not to mention guiding it through successful acquisition in 2019. In addition to his work as an entrepreneur, Aaron speaks internationally on digital marketing, customer experience, conversion, and messaging. Joining us today for a conversation about leveraging text messaging as a tool to engage with our audience, the state of digital marketing in 2022, creating a meaningful customer experience, and so much more. Please join us in welcoming you to the show, CEO at Leadferno, Aaron Weiche. Hey, Aaron, how are you, man?
Ryan, Mike, thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
not a problem.
Glad to have you.
Thank you for making time for us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's, I guess, kind of just kick this thing off at the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about sort of just who you are and where you're from. Obviously, we hit some of the high notes in our intro, but we like to learn a little bit more about sort of what makes you tick and talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Do you have an awesome intro of hailing from parts unknown?
That's the next step. That's coming out next season.
Yeah, not that exciting, but I'm a born and raised Minnesotan. There you guys go. Throw a little accent your way. And I've lived in the Twin Cities area my entire life. I always joke now you'd have to, kick me out of the state or throw me out. And yeah, just a lifelong entrepreneur. I think I got it from growing up in a family where both my parents were entrepreneurs. And my journey started, my first businesses I started in my early 20s was a sports tour business. So packaging travel and tickets to an NFL game or baseball game or a golfing event and hotel and putting all that together. This is like mid to late 90s. And that was great. I ended up losing my butt in it. I didn't understand inventory and market forces on things that happen in ticket prices. So I had a big trip going to Chicago for the Vikings at the Bears. Walter Payton passed away 2 weeks before the game. And they announced the Minnesota game was going to be like a tribute to Walter Payton. So the Bears were terrible then, just as they're terrible now. And the tickets went from below face value to $150 a seat. And I still had to acquire 100 tickets. And
oh man.
Yeah. At that age, losing 15, 20 grand, that was my income for the year. And that was one shoe out the door of wanting to continue to do that. The blessing was in that business is one of the things I did to help market it was build a website and bought a book, taught myself, and really, thank goodness. That was the start of my entrepreneurial journey within digital. Started building websites. My dad owned a small market radio station, just a small AM radio station, did all the local stuff here. And so all his friends and clients were business owners. And probably in my dad bragging was yeah, my kid's building web pages, right? Then you just built a web page for a business. And so I just started building websites for all kinds of small businesses in the community I grew up in. And then from there, we can definitely cover, I don't want to talk for 10 minutes straight, but just kind of a stair-step approach of larger agencies, larger clients, larger projects across a few different startups and coming into other agencies that were just starting to grow. And yeah, it was just a phenomenal education and immersion in the world of digital.
I love it. So there's a big difference between just a HTML splash page, landing page for a company and something like what you're doing now. I think there was a bigger project that you had acquired in between what you're doing now and then. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What that software was?
Yeah. So I guess to real quickly sum up the agency, and you're totally right. And that led to one of probably my self-awareness moments professionally. I was a shitty coder. So getting past static HTML pages and a little bit of JavaScript. Yeah. I was okay, I'm better on the sales side, the marketing side, having the vision, the creative, all that kind of stuff. But people can build this better. So after building on my own, I folded in with a group of guys that had started like server-side CMSs, right? We're so spoiled in the world now. You can log into the back end of everything, change content, add pages, do whatever you want. You have WordPress and so many hosted solutions and everything else. But these guys were doing this in the mid like 2000 aughts. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And so I brought my client list into them, went to work with them just doing sales and marketing, and help them scale to about 500 websites, everything from e-commerce to universities to banks, you name it. And then basically after being there, then I left for a larger agency in Minneapolis that was on the upswing, had a handful of people. It's a classic digital age love story. Met the guy on Twitter, and then we synced in real life, and then built an agency that exceeded 5 million in revenue and 50 employees. And we were building mobile apps, search and social campaigns, and doing it for the likes of, Fortune 100 companies that are here in the Twin Cities, like United Health Group and Pentair and things like that. So really great experience there. But yeah, after 15 years, a little burnt out on agency lives. You're selling hours and people. And man, when you're at a hot agency too, you're spending so much time retaining people and guarding your team and your culture and hiring to grow. And I was doing less of the work and less of the like vision and creative, and doing more of just like putting out dumpster fires and recruiting and some of the things that I just didn't love as much of the work. So that got me to your question, Mike, where I had a couple of industry friends that had started a SaaS product and had just kind of gotten it off the ground and gotten some traction. And one of them just started bending my ear, like, why don't you come to us and do sales and marketing? And yeah, I could never go back now. I could never go back to agency life. Software got me hooked. And that product was called GatherUp. It was around customer feedback and online reviews. So the whole service was really about listening to your customers to better your business. The easiest thing people understood was people leaving 5-star reviews on Google or Facebook or Yelp or TripAdvisor, any of those sites. But what we were really rooted to as a team, and what really jived with me, is like just understanding and knowing what your customer thinks about your business and how big of a deal that is to understand what your customer experience is like and how do you use that to your advantage. So we did a lot of cool things there. I learned so much. When you have insight to 25,000 businesses and millions upon millions of pieces of feedback, it's so interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting to break that down and figure all out the different ins and outs of what customers are thinking. So that would be really intriguing.
Yeah, specifically though, I want to dig into a little bit that transition, right? I mean, maybe it has to do with my age, but Mike and I have had several conversations about this idea of sort of a career pivot, right? Like you described, I come from an agency background too. I too have had that 15 years and feeling burned out. And so in fact, like a year ago, I went back to school and finished a degree so that I could maybe go and try something new, right? But, fortunately or unfortunately, I haven't. And so, but one of the things that I'm always intrigued by is, first of all, the things that, drove that change and your willingness to sort of change careers. And obviously you knew a lot about digital marketing, but SaaS is a different monster altogether. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about the transition in the first place, having the confidence to go through with it and do it. Second of all, what that learning curve was like. And, you mentioned that you wouldn't go back, but I guess for people who might be at that career point where maybe they have developed, 30 years of skills or 40 years of skills, and said, how to determine that you're actually valuable for something else, right? Because I think so many of us keep doing what we do because it's what we've always done. And, again, in full transparency, this is a little bit self-serving, but it's particularly interesting because I have an opportunity with the SaaS company right now as well. And so it's kind of this, particularly intriguing to me.
Yeah. So, all right, if I try to duck back into my brain 8-9 years ago when this was going on, a lot of it was just kind of a mental pros and cons checklist, right? And I definitely remember some of the cons where it's like, what's it going to be like working on just like one thing compared to all of these things, right? All of these projects, various businesses, building new websites, building apps, like you're constantly doing new ideas, and you don't have to like remodel the house you're living in because you get a new project to build new custom. So whatever you thought is better or you learned from the last project, you can plug it into the next project without the technical debt of it or the overhang. So that was one thing, was like, all right, would the variety be enough, focusing on one product instead of, one product for 100 different clients of various nature. The next one, the big shift in this was that company was already remote. And I had never worked in a remote company before. And I'm a people person. And a lot of my leadership style was being able to be visible and engage and interact, jump in a room with people, whiteboard ideas, trying to have energy and a vibe that's contagious. So I was really, like, what's that going to be like? And I didn't even know the extent until I crossed over. But that was definitely one of the concerns as well. And the last one is just understanding, like, the reason I found this career and became so passionate about it is because I just discovered that I loved learning. And I loved learning the way and being hands-on and creating things and doing things and getting a chance to, Pixels became my like woodworking, where you're constantly building and crafting new things and you're out in the garage till 4 a.m., which is sitting at your screen, trying to figure out how something works and reverse engineering it and just crafting what's there. And I was kind of worried that like that would stop a little bit in moving to a singularly focused thing. Like, would I feel that same vibe? The easy way I always phrase it is like, I go to bed stupid, I go to bed smart, and I wake up stupid because of the evolution of the industry and what there is to learn and trends and all those kind of things. So those were definitely the things I worried about. On the pro side was like this breath of fresh air of like, I can come into something completely new. And that's exciting. When I boil it down to my business experience, I have experience in growing teams and scaling operations and building in processes and going through all kinds of just the little hurdles of, in a company, how do you get it health insurance? How do you do career planning for employees? How do you structure teams? How do you create things that are, fail safes and failovers and keep you from dumpster fires, which agency teaches you a lot of those. So within all those, it's like, all right, that was a plus. I'd still be doing sales and marketing as a core. And that was definitely a plus that would still continue on. And then just knowing I'm going to still get to work with other business owners, right? We're going to have clientele that are all different walks of business. I wasn't going to a SaaS that was only focused on left-handed lawyers. That's something I definitely could never do, is like a very niche SaaS would not be to my liking. It would just, no matter how much money it made, I'd be bored if it was just one specific industry. So yeah, those were the things. And like I just got to the point where I was like, and many of my other decisions over the years too, I ultimately end up in a good gut feeling, and I don't want to regret not trying this. I can always go back to what I was doing before. I can always do something than either one of these two things differently, but I don't want to have regret. And that's usually, once I was comfortable in my gut, that's what led me to make the leap.
So, tell us about that first year that you did make the leap, and because coming from agency life into a SaaS business, that's a learning curve. And I'm sure a lot of it is like, yeah, we can do this. And like the software is not even like close to being ready for something like that. Can you maybe tell us about just that first transition year?
Oh, the first months were so hard. Like I had never felt like so alone in my life. Like even the pandemic didn't make me feel as alone as I felt in those first few months, going from being around 50 people and clients constantly coming in the office and going to their offices day in and day out. And all of a sudden I am just at home at a desk with a computer and a couple of set calls during the day, and trying to do a bunch of outreach to set sales meetings and do all of those things. So yeah, that was definitely hard. Coming in and understanding the cadence of their product cycle and what they were building. You also come into too, I think one thing that was really hard for me, and I didn't realize it at the time, is like, I'm hoping I'm not an oddball here. I'm hoping I'm like most leaders, where you're strong in your opinion, you have very strong convictions, you see things a certain way. And I didn't have that with the product right away because I wasn't immersed enough in it. I didn't know customers enough. I didn't know the competitive landscape enough, right? No matter how much research, these are all things that you just have to get in and feel when you join a new organization and a new mission that's there. So I lacked some of the grounding to do some of the things that I do best, as far as like having a vision and explaining it out and creating a story and mapping out how to get there and getting everybody on board with that. So I didn't even have the right basis to be able to do the things that I'm great at for those first 3 to 6 months. So yeah, I really felt like I was swimming, and slowly I just started to like gravitate towards things I knew how to do. So let's upgrade the website and the marketing messaging. Let's upgrade some of the talking points and start to look at our positioning. Let's pour through customer feedback and start to look at what people are asking for and what they need. And doing a ton of sales calls is great for that, right? Because you hear firsthand from people who potentially might buy what they like, what they don't like, what they're using now, the problems they have with it, all those kind of things. But man, it took me a good 9 to 12 months before I really got my feet under me to make a significant impact.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah, I think those are all great points too. And it's interesting because with this, prospect that I'm kind of looking over right now, I'm experiencing all those same things, right? I mean, I've been doing marketing and design for 20 years, right? I mean, this kind of world is my world. But now I'm being asked to look at, user experience in a software platform and in an industry that I know very little about, and some of these other things. And it's like the uncertainty or whatever you want to call it that comes with being a professional in your field, but then being knocked down a few pegs. It's like, I mean, it's humbling, for one. And I think if you approach it with this idea that you're going into this to learn something new, I think that that's a good place to start. And it sounds like that was sort of your mentality was, try and keep learning. But I will tell you, as somebody that's been like a pro and been the go-to guy for a lot of years, I definitely feel like I'm not where I need to be, on all these other things. And that insecurity is a feeling I haven't had to fight for a while.
Yeah, totally. And for me, I had those same things where I was just kind of left wondering at a really basic level, like, will my heart and soul be in this, right? Because I'm very much, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are this way, like you live what you do. It is a very big part of you. It's how you express yourself. It's what you get excited about. Like that. Some people laugh at this, but like work is one of my biggest hobbies. Like I'm doing it on my free time. I love learning, researching, like all of those kind of things. And I just wondered, like, man, I love constantly kicking out new websites and meeting new businesses and new challenges and new search marketing campaigns and all those kind of things. Like, will my heart and soul be into this software product that at first looks like it's focused on just one thing? And right, the short version of that, like once you get into that software product, it has just as many, corners and needs and areas to find yourself and fuel ideas and problems to solve and everything else as having those 100+ client projects going at one time.
Yeah. And coming from an agency background too, really trains you to have sort of a different level of understanding of a product or of a client than you do of something when you're owning a product. So for example, I mean, like I need to know a certain amount of things about your business in order to design a brochure or to build a website or whatever. But I don't need to know how your software works. I don't need to, I don't care what your engineering team's up to. I don't care about any of that stuff. But when you're in a product, it's a totally different world, right? Now there's this level of depth of understanding that you kind of just can't skim over the way that and that sounds bad. But I mean, like you need a much deeper look or a more comprehensive look at a piece of software or any business that you might be working in when you're doing one business at a time. But when you're doing many, it's really easy to just kind of, get that surface level. This is what I need to execute. And that's it.
Yep. Nope. You're exactly right. Where, software ultimately, a lot of us, what you're trying to unlock is like an emotional affinity to your product and what it does, how it saves them time, makes them look, brings them customers, makes them money. Whatever that might be, like you want them to feel it. And your power users, your people that are really excited about it, that evangelize for you, they're brand advocates, they refer others, everything else, you learn from them. Like those people have an emotional connection to your product. And when you're in the agency world, you're not getting that deep, right? And there's so many things that are just so much more tactical that you're executing on.
Yeah, there's also a segmentation that happens too, right? So when I worked in agency before working for my own agency, I was more siloed to an art team, right? And so we're not interfacing with the clients outside of pitches, but we're not doing the sales. We're not doing the research. We're not doing any of that. Rather, we're acting on a brief that was put together for us. That changed a little bit as I started doing my own agency and running my own company, because just as a small agency, right, you wear more hats.
Yep.
But so anyway, so throughout this process, and then now, looking at software companies, or if you're trying to build any product, really, you're now the one plowing the ground ahead of you, right? You're the one moving the snow so your business can move forward. And it's, it's a totally different mindset. So anyway, so I applaud your transition, and I'm really interested in it just for that reason.
I survived it. And Ryan, if you go that path, you will too.
So, from that, it was acquired, and then you started Leadferno. Can you tell us about the actual acquisition, and then tell us about, I'm sure you had like a year off where you're like, I'm good, I'm not gonna do much, and then you're like, you got the itch and you started Leadferno. So tell us about that time frame.
Yeah, well, I can spoil your thoughts on it. I didn't have a year off, and I can tell you about that. But yeah, the acquisition was really great for the most part. We had 4 of us that were main owners with double digits in ownership of it, percentages. And luckily, we'd already had a few offers before the one we accepted. And that led us down some paths of everybody kind of sketching out like what's their minimal of what they would need, right? So anytime you have a group of people that have to come to a decision, what a great exercise for everybody to be able to state like, here's what I would need. Here's kind of my minimum requirements that are important to me financially, what continues on, the structure of it, any of those kind of things. Because then when you get in that situation, you're so much better prepared, because I would say it's a very emotional thing for most people once you get into it. You have the one emotion side of like being wanted, which feels really awesome, and like a finish line in business where you're like, oh, this is why everybody starts a business, to one day it to be so valuable, someone else wants to buy it. And in business, there's not many things that are like that finish line that tie off that you can say, yes, I'm a winner, I got the medal, and and whatever else. You also have the financial standpoint, right? What are people expecting to get out of it for the hard work that they put into it, for the days when it was scratching and clawing and not taking a paycheck or making very little, and for it to go away for the point you're at? What does that lump sum need to be? You have your team that you have. How are they going to be taken care of? Do they have a future with this? You've grown to love your product and your customers. Are they going to be taken care of? So you have all those pieces. And ultimately, when we got the offer from the company we came with, and after a little bit of negotiation, we arrived at something that the 4 of us could say yes to, and checked our boxes as far as how the team was going to be taken care of, how we felt the product would continue to go on, how we felt about the acquire. And there's, a lot of unknowns that you didn't know about those things, but I think most of them have shaken out pretty well. The process itself, the easy way I summarize it is like running through a dark tunnel, waiting to get hit in the face by a shovel. Like you have so much riding on it and so much pressure to deliver this, right? It was an 8-figure exit. And so there's a lot riding on it. So you are not sleeping much. You're going over every detail. You're preparing all kinds of things for, the data room, and going over all of your tech being audited and poked holes in, and having meetings through every process. All the due diligence parts are extremely hard. You have lawyers involved. And so, right, having a great lawyer so that you don't have to, I do not speak legalese. So, right, it was always a call after lawyers talk and be like, okay, so now explain this in English. And what do we really need to care about? What is just lawyers pushing for ground on their sides? What are the things in reps and warranties that might affect us 6 months, 12 months, 2 years or more down the road that we want to be, watching and paying attention to? So that was definitely experience. I actually, on my own podcast, did like a 3-part series. I can throw you guys the link to that, but there's like an hour on multiple parts of it if people want to dive really deep. But it was an experience. When you haven't gone through it all, it feels daunting and scary. I can say after going through it, and again, this is going to depend on your situation, the acquirers, all those things. It definitely didn't turn out as bad as I felt like it was, but it was really stressful at those times. And then, getting to the other side of it, I decided to stay on. We were bought by a private equity firm. They had already acquired 5 to 6 businesses in the MarTech, marketing technology space. A couple of them were our competitors. So I wanted to see under the hood of other tools. I wanted to see how other software companies operated. I wanted to see how these guys operated. Got in there. And it was about within 6 months, right? And this was, Ryan, exactly what we were talking before. I went from calling all the shots to kind of being a middle manager. They didn't really care about my ideas to a certain extent, right? PE firms, they want to maximize profit. They want to grow the company. They want to roll these up, and they're looking at, in the future when they go to sell it and maximizing. So I already started kind of to feel like, all right, what I do best is not being leveraged here. And I was like, all right, I've got some ideas in my back pocket, and let's put these in motion. I started having conversations with other people and taking a look at what's next. And luckily, my co-founder, Joel Headley, on this, we met each other like 10 years ago speaking at conferences. Joel spent about a decade. He was working at Google then, and we'd speak at some of the same search marketing conferences. So we had batted this idea around for quite some time at dinners and just random talking. And it was really, for me, selfishly, it was a culmination of all these different points that I had like gone through. One part was building hundreds of websites and always wanting like a conversion/contact solution out of the box instead of a forms plugin and linking to an email and placing the phone number here and everything else. I just wanted to centralize all the best ways to convert and become a lead with that business to make it easy to deploy for the business. The second one is being at GatherUp, was just being able to see how important communication was to great and bad customer experiences, right? Like overwhelmingly, over a third of bad reviews were because communication just sucked. And so knowing that was something that businesses faced as a challenge, I wanted to solve that. And then the last part was just always trying to have my eye on what's next, where are things progressing, where's the trend going. And I got really lucky and jumped on reviews years before reviews became such a household thing for businesses. Like our first couple of years of GatherUp, my demo was selling people on why reviews are important. And they'd be like, I just don't think it's that important, whatever else. 3 years later, they were like, reviews are so important. We need to do something about them, right? Like the demand had already been created then. And I really feel like text is in that same place where we already had some of the transition and experiences where we're using texting in business areas and not just personally. The pandemic only fast forwarded it. So all of those things kind of mesh together in what we created and are doing with Leadferno.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. So I think, and I don't know if every business philosophically agrees with me, because I think some of them are actually trying to be a little manipulative, but I think generally speaking, our marketing is designed to try and build closer relationships with people, right? And I think so what you said, or what you realized in looking at reviews, lack of communication is a big problem in a relationship, whether it's with your spouse, your friends, your whomever, or the business you're trying to do work with. Yep. And so, so obviously that's a critical component. So can we talk about how text factors into that? I mean, obviously I look at my kids. I have a 15-year-old he's 16 tomorrow, I guess. And he, is texting all day. They're constantly missing context. They're constantly misinterpreting one another. They're constantly getting into fights over things. And, and then like I'm a super lame texter, a couple words at a time or whatever, so also very ineffective as it pertains to text.
I am,
what I will say.
I was going to say emojis and GIFs I'm great at.
Yeah, anything else? Yeah. I feel like you can communicate a ton with those. But then there's another thing that I'll sort of cop to, which is that in most companies that I work with, for example, different vendors that I use for platforms or whatever, like if I need help, I use those chat bots, I use their text systems, I use all that stuff like it's going out of style, because I want that instant gratification of having a communication with, hopefully a person, if I can figure out how to get by their bot. And so I wondered if you would just talk a little bit about sort of what you guys have been covered at Leadferno in terms of text messaging or your version of text messaging as a tool to sort of build relationships.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, you touched on a bunch of awesome things that I'll try to peel back some of the layers to all the areas that you just mentioned. First and foremost, the biggest thing that we're after is conversion. And conversion, right, for those that don't understand it, is turning someone who's visiting your website to actually being a known lead, right? We playfully coin it lurkers to leads. So you take them from being unknown and just browsing your website to declaring, here's who I am, you can interact with me. And when doing our research on some of the best ways to do that, number one, we saw like placing clear calls to action. A lot of websites, especially small business websites, completely fail at that. They've been using the contact page for 20, 25 years now with no evolution. Fill out these fields. When you hit send, I have no idea in the world where this form is going to. I've even worked with businesses that are like, yeah, we don't even know where that form goes. We it went to Sarah, who left the company 3 years ago, and it's in her email. Like, it's unbelievable what happens within businesses and things like that. So in looking at that, and when we started to investigate, we just started researching and like, where is the trend going? How do consumers like to interact? And we looked at everyone's personal life, and it's like text. We text with our family, we text with our friends, we text with people that we're in hobbies or interests in, we text with our coworkers. Like, we are not emailing any of those people, right? Like, if you get an email from a family friend, you're like, is this like planning a party? Like, why is this an official email? Why is this not on like a group text or a text chain or anything else like that? So we looked at that and thought like, okay, text is a strong character to produce there. Then we looked at things like live chat. And we're like, maybe that's a great solution. Well, the problem with live chat is, one, you're tied to it, right? You open that chat window on your screen and now you're not going anywhere. You can't start a chat and go to a meeting, run to the store, go to lunch, go pick up your kids, anything else, and have that chat go on. And we've all had these chat experiences where we start it, we get a message that the agent is coming, just wait. We jump into another tab to do something. The agent came and went while we were focused on something else. And now we have to get back in the queue again. We click the live chat button at 10 at night and, oh, sorry, agents aren't available. Give us your email and we will crappily communicate an email to you instead of helping you right here now. So we started to see these things where like live chat wasn't gonna nail it, that things should be better. And it brought us back to text. And we looked at text is portable. Text is the most used app on almost everyone's phone. They have high trust in it. They know how to interact. It can be real time. And it can also like play out longer because you're confident you're going to see the alert in it. It's not buried in your junk folder and spam and with a whole bunch of emails. And it's in the channel you're interacting with all day. The open rate's 98%. So all those things is what led us to say, yeah, we need to build our number one supporter of conversion should be text messaging. And we just see that bore out with our customers where asking questions of a business has never been easier. I can be on a desktop website, on an iPad, on a mobile device, and I can start a text conversation that then transfers into my text app, get answers, get photos, get links, get help. As you said, be connected to a real expert, right? Like, we have a couple of small automation features, but ultimately we want to connect that prospect or customer with the right person on your team that can help them. And that's what customers really want. Like, I don't know about you guys. I've yet to have a bot experience where I'm like, man, that was slick and easy. I'm mostly like, that was glorified navigation. You're just trying to forward me to a web page that has half-assed content, doesn't really answer my question. And that's why I ended up in this chat to begin with, because I couldn't find my answer. So just looking at those things and combining those things led us down the road of text. It's personal, it's known, it's trusted. It's fast and efficient. It's how we want to communicate. It's the lowest barrier to entry to starting a conversation. And all those things just play out so well for businesses.
Yeah, no, those were really great points.
I love that. One of my questions I was going to be like, so I'm going to be the devil's advocate here and say, why can't I just use my phone? And you just answered all that for me right there. So
yeah. Well, and the other thing to consider there is security, right? So I talk all the time, especially like home service and things like that. Like, and in today's market, salespeople are hard to find, and sales always has a lot of turnover. And so if they're trying to be progressive and connect with customers and they're using their own phone, their own message app, their own number, if they don't work out or they leave, the contacts might be gone. They're definitely not syncing their app with the CRM and capturing everything. The conversations are gone. Like, you have no idea. Where when you use a business messaging app like Leadferno, you can sync it to your CRM. We don't allow you to delete contacts or messages. So all that information is always there. And so as you start new salespeople and new salespeople, service people, whatever it might be, you retain all of your information. You're able to turn off their access on their app instead of Wild West, and your data and customer info is leaking everywhere.
You know, that's I didn't even think about that. Just the secure factor of it and the ability for someone to review what a salesperson's actually saying versus like, they could get a little too casual in a conversation and actually ruin a relationship. So
Yep.
that's really critical. I also like the fact that it's not outbound, it's inbound. So if they're coming to your website and they're, somewhat interested and they start the conversation, it's more, instead of, a cold text that I always reply nastily to, it's them coming to you. So, yeah, I like what this is. It's a really unique approach.
It's like a modern take on the old, having to call their 800 number and wait and hold and all that stuff, right? I mean, I can speak to a couple examples of having used I don't know what platform they use, but like Delta, Apple, American Express, they all use a system like this. And my experience, like with Delta, for example, is incredible. Like this, you basically are connected with a person. If you try their phone number, like you have to leave a number and they'll call you back in 3 days or whatever, right? I mean, it's like you're not going to get any kind of a response very quickly. But these tech systems, they are Johnny on the spot, and they're walking you through these things. And I remember going through a situation where we were trying to buy a plane ticket, and we wanted to use, I had one of these buy one get one kind of things. And so we were trying to use it, but the date I needed was blocked out. So they put me in touch with an agent using their text app. And I was texting back and forth natively through a branded experience in my messaging app. Yep. And was able to go back and forth with this agent and resolve the situation and get the flight booked and all that stuff. It was just, it couldn't have been more slick. And, you would never get that experience through a bot or through, some other platform where you're not having a real life conversation with a real person who can contextually see what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
And then just the integration, being able to access their systems. And like in the case of Delta, being able to book a flight and do all these things, through that text chat is, I don't know, it's pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, is there is a complete win-win here for both sides, right? You just spoke to all the things for yourself as a consumer where you're in control of it. The conversation's mobile. You can take it wherever you need to. You have a direct connection to someone that's helping you out. Like, these are all the reasons that as a consumer, it's like, yeah, this is a channel I want to communicate through. Mike, to your point on the inbound side, it's like, when you give the consumer the power of choice, right? Like our widget, we place a couple of buttons on the screen. One, usually we tell people include that you text on there. So it'll be like, let us help you, text us, get a free estimate, text us, things like that. And then when they open it, then we can offer other choices. So it can say, text us. It can say, book appointment. You can link to your Calendly scheduling tool, whatever that might be. It could be sign up for a newsletter, buy a gift card. We allow you multiple points, like link to whatever your top 3 or 4 conversions are. Could be click to call if you're somebody that still likes phone calls. You have those options. So having options and being in control is like a very high level conversion thing to foster more conversations to happen. And then when they choose text on the business side, you get all these efficiencies as well. Instead of being locked into one phone call with a customer, you can handle on the average of 6 to 10 text conversations in that same time. So you're helping more customers instead of all of a sudden, and we've all had this, you get on a phone call for 5, 10, 15 minutes with one customer and one problem, and you can't put your time into anyone else or nudge someone else the next step along or help them with one small thing that they were only a 30-second problem, but they still had to wait forever to get their help or to get their answer. And then you build in some of the automation and some of the features that are in a business text messaging platform, like auto replies. So the minute they send a new lead come in or their first question comes in, you reply, you say hi, introduce the brand, and let them know when to expect a reply to you. So they already know, like, I've made contact. This didn't go out into the oblivion. I have an expectation. They're going to get back to me, and I already trust that. And then we have something called shortcuts, which allows you to save replies, questions, answers, links. So things that you're commonly asking prospects, things that you're commonly answering, processes you have well documented somewhere on your website or somewhere else. You have in 2 taps, you're sending that info instead of typing tons of characters. So, and then you can also transfer full conversations. So I'm having a conversation with Ryan. He's helped me out on something. He's like, you know what? Mike on our team's a better fit for what you've told told me to help you, I'm going to transfer you to him. And now you send it over to Mike, and Mike, within that same number, the number doesn't change. He takes over the conversation. He can see all the past history, and he can jump in and then help that customer. So those are just a few of the efficiencies on the business that save them time, get people connected who can really help them and convert them into being a customer or turning a bad situation better if they're doing customer service, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. Like, I love things that are just win-win. It's not just a win for the business, it's a win for the customer as well.
So I don't even, on my website, if you were trying to book me right now, you'd see it. I don't have a phone number. I don't have anything. The only thing I have is a button that says booking. They click it, it's a Google form, and it starts an email thread. Like, I don't have the ability for people to call me because I want to be able to go back and look over what we've discussed and then have proof of what we discussed and be able to do that. So the fact that you have that conversation and you can transfer it to someone else is priceless, because I mean, it's just me, but if you have a company with 5,000 people and all that going on, that could get real murky. Hey, Mike talked to him. Can you call him to see what they discussed and see, but he thought he said this and he thought he said that. It just gets really convoluted. So just being able to have that is amazing. Yeah. Can you tell us about, does it integrate with CRMs, or do you have your own proprietary CRM?
Yep. Nope, it integrates with CRMs. So we have, number one, the easiest way to do it is we have a Zapier app, right? Zapier is a no-code connection tool for connecting other pieces of software. So each piece of software needs to be represented on Zapier and have their own app there. And I don't know. I guess everybody probably does shameless plugs for like Zapier and whatever else, but it's the easiest way to connect Leadferno with HubSpot or Salesforce or MailChimp, any of those other pieces of software, and automate when a new contact is created in Leadferno, then create that contact in my CRM. When a new contact's created in Leadferno, create that contact in MailChimp so we can add them to our email marketing. So you're able to do those kind of things. Zapier has over 5,000 pieces of software. It's the most known and long-standing that's out there. And then we also have an API for people who need to do custom things, have a dev team, and want to get in to those elements as well. But yeah, for most businesses, you want that data and that information to flow around and be present with what's out there. And Mike, to your comments, like, one, man, I smell a new customer coming on because now they can text you and ask you questions. And then the beauty when you have other things like your online booking form, say go back again, right? So our auto replies, we have two different types. We have a during availability hours and an after hours. You set the hours per day, what you want that to be. So if they text you during your business hours, it might be like, hey, thanks for getting a hold of DJ Mike. I'll answer you in probably 60 minutes or whatever you want to put in there. Look forward to talking to you. If they, are sending a text to you at 3 a.m. when you finally just got all your equipment torn down at wherever you're DJing that night and whatever else, and you don't want to answer that text, they get the after hours reply. And it's like, hey, we're not available right now because it's after hours, or I might even be doing a gig, but I'll get back to you starting. We automatically pull the next time you're available and starting at 10 a.m. tomorrow. In the meantime, if you're looking to book, click this link. And then the system will automatically put the booking right in front of them or a next step right in front of them. I see other people say if they're in like home services, like, hey, tell us more about your project or give us photos if it's something that needs repaired. So then when they come in the office at AM the next day, they've already answered a couple questions. They've sent photos. They just have a lot more context on that lead. So there's so many smart things that you can do that the system will do for you in efficiency and help nurture that lead along, give you more info, and represent you when you're not there without being a bot that ends up making them disinterested.
Right. Yeah. Are there other like automations? Like, so for example, if, I was to implement a tool like this, but maybe I wanted to do a little lead capture, data capture at the beginning of our conversation, hey, what's your first and last name? What's your email? Are there some of those things? I mean, you see those in bots, but I wonder like if in this texting methodology, are there automations like that? You mentioned one where, it can look at some, your calendar and offer up a time, or it can point you to a booking link. But like, what about at the beginning of the conversation? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, so there's a few elements. One, we don't at this time, it is something we're discussing, having like a series of 3 to 4 like lead nurturing questions that automatically fire off to a new prospect that comes in. How that looks right now, right? They're on the website, they click, they want to text you, and they get just a 3-line form of what's your name, what's your phone number, and what's your message or question. So we're automatically capturing name for them. Number is automatically part of it because we need to text them at that number. And then they're giving you that initial info of what's there. Once they fill that out, and that you want to do it that way because if they're on a desktop, an iPad, something that's not connected to texting, they still can start that text message from there instead of if it's just a linked phone number. You'll see a lot of business, say call or text us and they have the number. Well, if you're on a PC and you go to click that and you don't have any messaging service tied to it, you can't actually send a text from that desktop. And that might be 30, 40, 50% of your users are coming from desktop browsers. So that's why you want to do it where you have this short capture form. You get their name. Then once that submits, we immediately return in that same lead box that captured the info, like, here's the number we're going to text you back from. And we put in a call to action, a big button that says, add us to your contacts. So especially those people on your phone, now we can add them to your phone. It's a V card that instantly puts them in your contacts in one tap. And now your logo's in there, your text number, your landline, which you can text from your landline as well in a lot of situations, your business address, all the things that we know out of your account. Now you're a known contact in their phone, which is awesome in this day of spam calls, robocalls. So if you need to call them, they know who's calling. If you're texting, they see your name and your logo when they're in there. And so that's just a small thing to establish more trust and connection. And when you think further down the line, somebody says like, hey, who'd you use to paint your house? Or who was the DJ at your wedding? They're like, oh, is this guy? He's in my contacts. I will text you his contact. And now they're sending the contact file instead of trying to dig it up, telling you to Google it, everything else. So small thing, but like a lot of key benefits. Yeah. So we have those auto replies. And then as far as those questions, that's where you'd want to create those and save those common questions in your shortcuts. So within 2 taps, you can fire off one question, they answer it, then you grab the next question, then you grab the next question. So you already have those questions written out and you might have 10 of them, but based on what they're answering, you might only use 3 of them and the succession you use them in might change. So it becomes really easy for you to ask those questions within seconds instead of taking minutes or more to write them out.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and it's funny because as soon as you started talking about it and I'm sitting here going over a question in my head, this whole, that bot approach, right? Try and collect your email, try and collect your number. Like anybody who has any kind of internet savvy knows what they're doing, right? I mean, they're basically grabbing your stuff so they can market to you. Yep. But it actually made me go, well, God, maybe that's a little bit thirsty, right? Like, I mean, if I'm not asking for that stuff, like, I mean, like I'm the cool guy, I'm casual, like, let's just have a conversation, right? And from like a relationship development standpoint, it sounds like, before I really get anything from you, like I'm giving you something first, right? We're connecting because you have a problem and I'm here to help you, right? So it's like the connection or the relationship is starting off in a good place, right? You're offering something in exchange for, to solve a problem they've got or a question they have or a concern they've got or what, whatever reason they're reaching out to you.
Yep. And we'll see consumers too in their first message, they will write sometimes, depending upon the business type and what they're looking to do, they might write 2, 3, 4 sentences and almost all of the key information you need is already in their first reach out. So if you ended up replying to them with like, what can we help you with today? They're already thinking, I just told you exactly, right? I told you I need a mover to move from this address to this address on this date. And here's the square footage and how much stuff I have. And you just asked me where I'm moving from. Like I just told, like so inauthentic, that would make you not trust it. So, even though we look for areas to make things more efficient, the last thing that we want to do is like degrade trust or make it feel automated or that you're not getting an expert to help you with those things. And the best move by far is like have your bullets on tap, right? Have things already ready to go and ready to fire in just quick fashion when you can get to it. And when you're prepared that way, then it's really easy and you're able to like interact super easily with the customer and make them feel like they're being taken care of.
Is there anything that you guys do, I guess, to front load or, I guess sort of generate the lead that is then nurtured through your platform? So like, I mean, if you've got a website and maybe you do think that this is an incredible way to interact with your clients, but you really don't get that much web traffic, whatever, like, are there integrations or tools or things like that might drive more web, maybe it's web traffic, or maybe an integration with Facebook, for example, or some social platform, or like, is there another way to drive traffic? I'm just thinking of me in particular. I mean, like, our website doesn't drive a lot of traffic. Most of my business comes by word of mouth. But I would love a tool like this, because I think it'd be amazing for having these relationships and kicking off relationships and giving the opportunity to maybe answer questions that they wouldn't otherwise ask. But I don't have probably enough web traffic to justify it. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there anything that you guys do to sort of, I guess, jumpstart that or make it more effective? Or does that mean I need to go solve other problems first before I engage with Leadferno?
Yeah. So, great, like classic digital marketing, it depends type question. There isn't anything that we're doing that is directly like influencing SEO, posting for you on social media, things like that. So there does need to be, right? If you're only getting 2 visitors to your site a day, there's a lot of pressure on us to convert one of those 2 users or both of those 2 users that are there. So we do like to see that some of the other aspects are in shape. That said, exactly what you're referring to, we do integrate with Facebook Messenger. So you can read and reply to all your Facebook Messenger messages out of our tool, use all of our features, auto replies, saved messages, all of that. We integrate. Google has a chat as well called Google Business Messages. That's a chat icon that appears in your Google Business profile when you do like a brand search through the local searches and things like that as well. So we integrate, and all of our features can be used through that. And we'll continue to keep an eye on these. WhatsApp will probably be in our future, just especially for international clients and things like that. So you definitely have those opportunities there channel-wise. In the real world, this offers a lot of great things. Why we see so many when you have a vehicle like home services, right? And we're doing texting through their landline, call or text us at, and they're putting their number out there. Billboards, yard signs, brochures, any of those normal ways that you're going to put out there. Think of like you go stay at a hotel, you'll see a QR code in the elevator that says, hey, if you need anything, scan this code and you can text with us, right? It's just easier to pull up your camera and scan that than to type in a number from it. So there are a lot of other entry methods besides just the website, even though that's one of our main focuses. It's just wherever you want to put it out there. Now, I would say the smart marketer also utilizes this to get them somewhere too. So say that you stink at SEO and you don't have links and things like that. Well, maybe locally, the local newspaper might do an article about you because now you're offering texting and it's progressive and you're really dedicated to customer service. Say an industry publication might do the same because you're talking about how you're dedicated to customer service. Here's your process. You offer texting, things like that. So I'm always of the ilk, because I've always been a marketer. I always look at like, what are the other spins? What's the other juice that I can get out of this besides just using it? Can I speak at conferences about it? There's always ways to take something that you're doing, tell that story, and use it to your betterment in some angle or some area of the business. But we definitely don't. I would love if we had some, secret weapon that obviously delivered something onto the website to boost traffic. But that's a nut I don't know if we'll ever get to cracking. But we definitely know both Joel and I's backgrounds are SEO and digital marketing and building websites. So we give our customers a lot of free tips. We definitely write about things on that, and we can definitely point them towards resources to help with those things. But installing our widget by itself isn't going to do that.
Right. So to that extent, is there a sweet spot, like how much traffic we should get, like to make it worth it? Because, like, I mean, not to say that the application itself isn't worth it, right? But there's a charge for this, like there is with every other vendor relationship you might have. And so, I mean, is there sort of a sweet spot of traffic where it makes the most sense to start this? I mean, obviously, if you only have 2 or 3 people coming to your website, like you probably don't have a lot of customer service requests anyway. So it's probably not that big of a deal. So I don't know if there really is a good answer to like what a sweet spot would be. But I mean, I guess who's your target client, or who might be the most ideal business to sign up for something like this? Yeah.
So Ryan, it pains me to tell you, like, that answer probably exists. I haven't gone through the data deep enough to be able to convey that yet. Right. We're in Yeah, it hurts me, but probably a week spent going through that the right way. And I would have that. And someday I will. Just bigger fish to fry for us right now as we just continue to build and grow and onboard a lot of clients. So that's taken precedence, because I totally think that's there. And we track all those things. Internally, we report, here's how many times your buttons were impressioned on the screen. Here's how many times they were opened. Here's how many times they took an action. Here's the amount of completed text. So we track that funnel for them. So it is just really going through it, but then getting into business type, right? We see variations in the business types and things like that as well. So eventually I'll have.
I think you could probably safely say anybody with sort of customer service needs, right? Or like if you're currently relying on a contact form or something like that.
Yeah.
It's certainly a good way to try something.
The high level answer I give people is, if answering questions might make you hundreds or thousands of dollars, you should at least test this. Like that's the easiest way to put it. And it's amazing what you see. And I can't wait until like I have time to dig into these, or we just hire an analyst to dig into them. But there's a ton of businesses, and think about this. We all might be the same as consumers. We have a lot of information. We have a lot of availability for self-education. We all vary differently on that scale. When we have a need, we're looking for something with what we're going to do. Some things I'll watch 3 YouTube videos, look at 5 websites, and then reach out to somebody. Someone else, I'll just do a search and I'm going to reach out to the first one, right? It might depend on how much money I'm spending. Am I interested? Do I even understand it? Do I want to deal with it or not? But once we get to that website, more often than not these days, I really think people are just left with 1 or 2 questions they need to get answered to take a next step forward, right? It's just like, my trust is pretty high, but if you can just tell me this, or please tell me you've dealt with this, what seems to be an oddball situation for me, or you have any specialty in this. If you can answer this, then I'm going to go with you. And so when you make it incredibly easy for them to ask just that one question, and you're the one that you're marketing, hey, you can just ask this one question over text. You're not going to have to leave a voicemail, and then we have to call you back, or we trade voicemails. All these nightmare scenarios we've done with businesses that, like, we literally have a moment we're like, I don't want to do that. And you can say, oh, cool, I do want to do that. I do want to text you one question. And if it's the answer I need, then I'm going to work with you. So I just think that's such an important scenario for businesses to consider. To me, one of my biggest holy grails in business is, how easy are you to work with, right? Yeah. How easy are you to work with? And when you nail that, you get customers. Those customers love working with you. They tell other people, they write great reviews. Like, that's how you impact a business and you create more work in the front end, is by just delivering that great experience. So I would say those are definitely the things to think about there. And again, we have a 2-week free trial. So like, go test it. There's other business messaging tools, like, test them. The last thing you want to say is like, I just don't think it would work. Or when I hear people like, well, our customers, they really haven't asked to text us. And I'm like, okay, like, that's putting all the work on them to tell you this is a big enough pain that I need to text you. Like, they're all texting. Don't tell me that. Like, you're not hearing about this because you're not meeting them anywhere with it.
Right.
Well, unless you're selling hearing aids. And
no, that's even better. Then it's all written down communication. That's exactly what you need, right?
Yeah,
it's funny because the point that you hit just a second ago about, they might just have 1 or 2 more questions about you, or being able to have this communication. I'm thinking in my own experience, a lot of the business that we do comes by word of mouth. And a big part of that is we have a friendly conversation, we visit, we crack a joke, we do whatever, right? And an opportunity like this, I mean, even though I suppose there's always the danger of some context being lost, like, somebody who can communicate pretty well via text, you could kind of let out some of that personality and show how easy you are to work with. And so I think that that's an awesome characteristic of this type of approach that it just occurred to me.
So,
go ahead. I was going to say, I just was having a conversation with one of our clients that's a real estate team, and they were talking about their leads through texting from their website are so much more personable, and they all come in feeling like we've already known each other, and like the trust factor and the connection is so personalized, so much quicker than when we get leads through Facebook Messenger or a contact form or phone calls and whatever else. Like, there is something about text starting and being really a personal use channel only for so many years, that's where we're grounded, and that's where we talk to all those people that matter to us personally. That you're exactly right. Like, you can have very personalized conversations even with the right business structure and framework to them right from the beginning. And as you noted earlier, like create a personal connection with your customer. And that's something I've written about recently, especially if we're looking towards a downturn in the economy, things stalled out for a while, whatever that might be. Like there's nothing you should value more than having a connection with your customer. Like that's what's going to keep you in front of them, keep them using you, everything else, even during a downturn.
So I was wondering what kind of, like, as a user of your platform, is it an app that's on my phone? Is it all web-based? Am I using my actual texting, platform on my phone? Tell me about how, like, when I first sign up, how does it work?
Yep. When you first sign up, you're automatically creating your account on the web browser. You want to sign up through a desktop, web browser, laptop. Creating the account takes like 10 minutes and you instantly have access to the tool right there on your desktop. Then you get prompted to download the mobile app. So you have mobile apps for iOS and Android and the desktop app. You can use them in combination, use them however you want. Power users love being able to have a full keyboard and using their desktop. Business owners that are, on the go, never at their desk except for nights, anything else, it's on their phone. They can read and reply. All of the like settings are contained in the desktop app just because they're more intensive. We really focus the mobile app on reading and replying, the saved replies, all those kind of things, all being there so that it just keeps it lightweight and focused on interacting with your customer. But work how you work best in front of, any of those devices, tablet, computer, phone. So, and it's really, the interface and all of that is very similar to your texting app or any messaging that you've used. So one of the big upsides we see, and if we get back to like live chat, businesses will put in live chat, and because of it's a little different interface, you're turning it on and off when you're available. Businesses will train like 1 or 2 people. Like these are the ones that can do live chat. So now even if you have a team of 15, 20, 50, only 1 or 2 have the golden key to live chat. And so it's not as available as much. There's only 2 people to pass it around, 2 people with knowledge of it. And that just leads to not a good internal operations side. Where with texting, we get all the time where people are like, yeah, everybody on our team has this. They all know how to text. They're all comfortable with it. They learned how to use the couple extra business features that you have within minutes. And so now we can spread conversations around. We can transfer conversations to techs in the field or whatever else is going on. So now instead of just 2 people getting special training and can handle the pressure of instant replies and being available and all those things, you have 10, 20 or more people available to help your customers using text.
I like that. One last question, and I know this is kind of like not what the software is developed for, but say, for example, I have like a pizza shop or something. I have a special and I want to send out a mass text. Is that a functionality that's available, or is that not? I would understand why you wouldn't want to make that available, but could I, as someone who had a shop like that, send out like a spammy text?
Yeah. So there's a lot of those solutions out there. Right now, it's not one of our features. This is an interesting one that like we will probably have a lot of internal debate on before we make a hard decision. Maybe we never make a hard decision and we just constantly like never do it, but are kind of considering it. So here's the things that I look at with it. One, I've been around long enough to see what every marketer does with a tool or a channel. They ruin it. Mm-hmm. So I'm very wary of that and how things get exploited. 2, in just being a consumer myself, there's only one text channel I have right now that I have like a text marketing or a text blast subscription to that I actually care about. And it's called winetext.com. They send out a daily wine deal and you just reply. You already store all your payment info. So it's a text to buy. So when they send out the wine deal of the day, you just reply with how many bottles you want. So I don't have to do a checkout. I don't have to do anything else. So once a month or so, I'll order like 6 bottles of wine that's at a like 50 or an 80% discount. Really awesome. Gary Vaynerchuk is who runs it, who's obviously a marketing genius. So free plug for Gary and winetext.com. But other than that, I've signed up for a ton of deals to get the discount, to get the promo code, and then the offers are so bad or it's invaluable. I don't care about the product that much, and I'm not going to buy it. And so for especially small businesses, they're more than likely not delivering enough value when they're going to text people for that person to care about. They're just going to turn and burn those people. So you just got yourself access to their phone, to their number one device where their whole life is. And you're going to go send out like 3 or 4 blasts in a month that never have any value, your lunch special, the pizza special, your lawn mowing special, whatever it might be. And they're just going to choose to block you or remove you. And now you shot the opportunity to ever have a one-on-one conversation with them and do just so much better things. So I just think it's the wrong channel for a majority of small businesses. That doesn't mean all. There's definitely use cases, but I would say like, you're already doing an email newsletter that is only open by 10% or 20% of your customers. So you're not delivering enough value in email, and people don't think highly enough of your brand to engage with you. Now you're going to go to their most personal channel. Like, you're just not going to make it, and you're only going to have bad things that happen out of it. And you're going to lose that great connection we already talked about that you want. So I just think it's something people really need to understand, how powerful and how great it is to do it the right way and not do it the wrong way. If you've proven out other things and you have that connection, you're like a central brand to them and you can deliver on that, then yeah, do text marketing and figure that out. But for most businesses, it's not going to be the right fit.
Yeah, when I asked the question, I knew that was going to be the answer because it's not what your platform's built on, and
Yep.
that's kind of why I brought it up.
Yep.
But in regards to that, last night I just I went to go get an insurance quote on a website. I went
Yep.
through all the steps, I filled out everything, and then the quote came back, and it was 3 times higher than what it was going to be because of servicing fees and all this other stuff. And so I didn't actually get it, and I woke up this morning with 4 missed emails in my inbox of people the same guy reaching out, trying to sell me that insurance. And there's no unsubscribe button. There's no way to get off the list. And so I just replied back, don't email me again. And it's one of those things that if you're too aggressive with your outbound, messages like that, it just turns people off. So I like that you don't even have that as an option.
Yeah. And the great business owners understand this, right? They understand how hard it is to get a customer, how hard it is to keep a connection, and how valuable when you win that customer over and they refer you out, they give you repeat business, all these things. And it's like, you just have to keep that mind frame with it. Like, I can use this as just a massive golden sword to do whatever I want, or I can use this as a machete, go through chopping everything down and like killing off all my surroundings that can actually provide for me. So yeah, you got to have the right mind frame from it and not just get excited with like, oh, I can text everyone. It's like, you probably don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, Eric,
yeah, we're starting to get to the end of the hour. And so I just wonder if you'd take a quick minute, break down where people can track you down if they want to engage with you personally, or if they were interested in trying out the product, how they could do that.
Yeah, personally, I'm a Twitteraholic. So at Aaron Weiche on Twitter, or if it's easier for you in spelling, my last name isn't easy, at Leadferno. And then you'll easily see that I've retweeted, or Leadferno's retweeted things that I've shared. So that's an easier connection via at Leadferno. Leadferno.com, you can read about our product, understand it. You can text us from our website and ask questions. You can book a demo from those buttons as well. It's a quick half-hour demo. Hopefully, folks understand, just as with this, like, I love what we're doing. I'm just willing to educate you. That's our sales process. We will teach, we will answer questions, we will inform. You will decide if it's the right decision for you or not. We have a 2-week free trial, so you can install it, get up and running literally within minutes, and be able to evaluate for yourself. And we're here to help you if you need suggestion, tips. Our blog is full of research, tips, help all around texting, messaging, conversion. So go and check that out if you want to get a good feel for us. And yeah, super appreciate you guys having me. I could talk to you guys all day, and we didn't even get into records and DJing and everything else, Mike. We didn't need to go to that topic. So
yeah, we went 10 minutes over. So
we didn't talk Jordan. We didn't talk Michigan versus Nebraska here in a couple of weeks.
Oh man,
those good things.
Oh, you did your research. You know what my spots are then. So
yeah, Michigan's my boys, and I know we're playing your team here in a couple of
weeks. We will likely lose. Nebraska has just been floundering for a decade now. So
they'll come around one day, I'm sure.
I can only hope it's in my lifetime.
Well, cool. Well, thanks so much, Aaron. This has been a really great conversation. We really appreciate you taking the time to visit with us.
Appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. And thanks so much to everybody who listens to the show this week and every week. And see you guys next time.